All right, guys, welcome to the Digital Barbell Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. If this is your first time here, welcome to our podcast. Subscribe before you leave if you like this kind of fitness and nutrition content. We've got a Q&A episode for you today. We're going to be talking about using tempo reps, paused reps. Are they good? Are they a waste? What's the deal? What's the best way to work on your flexibility? What are the pros and cons of lifting on little to no sleep? I think a parent must have sent that one in. And how long after a workout does muscle growth continue? Mm-hmm. So if you're interested in any of those topics, you're in the right place.
Or you never know what we're going to talk about. So.
I have another topic I want to talk about before we get to the questions. But
okay.
Do you have a sponsor for today's episode? Blakely wants it to be 30 Seconds to Mars. We're fresh off of our trip to Colorado. And the whole reason we went to Colorado was because back in November of last year, we went to the Austin City Limits Music Festival. We were blown away by...
Let me tell the quick story. I'm impressed with the marketing for this band. If you know about 30 Seconds to Mars, Jared Leto, the actor, it's his band. They were popular in like the early 2000s. Like the song The Kill from Yesterday, those were their hits. And then... I don't know what happened. He got into acting. Like, I don't know. Maybe they toured. Maybe they didn't. I didn't really know anything about them. We go to ACL this past October. And I was like, oh, 30 Seconds to Mars is playing. I just got to see Jared Leto. Like, sorry. I'm just like, I got to go see him real quick. That's all I want to do. Just like walk up and see him perform a song and then go. Because I didn't really care about the band. We go and we're just like, my friend Essence was with us. We're just drawn in. We're like, there for the whole show. He jumps off the rafters, puts on a crazy performance. He couldn't even sing. He was sick, but he just like engages the crowd. You were just like, you couldn't walk away. And then they release an album. The guy climbs up the Empire State Building on Empire State Building. Just for fun to promote this album. And we're like, I'm buying the ticket. I fell for it, whatever. We go to Red Rocks. It was a great experience to see a show at Red Rocks. We've never seen one before there. And we knew it's just like a really iconic venue. Really cool. Like, they have like a museum you can walk through. Super clean.
Yeah, we like that venue
super easy.
a lot.
But I will say, you need to be free parking. You can bring in snacks.
Yeah, you can bring your own food in.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Bring water.
I will say you need to be in shape to go to this venue. This venue, it's like people go there to exercise when there's no shows going on. We've been there before with our friend when we used to visit him in Denver just to exercise, but it is steep.
Yeah.
Like we were on row 42. Oops. We were on row 42, and I wouldn't have wanted to be lower. I think maybe it goes to like 100. I don't know. But like we were like halfway down, and it was like people were like coming out like catching their, catching your breath.
Going up to go to the bathroom was like a cardiovascular event.
Anyway.
By the way, say hi to Buttons and Lacey. They wanted to get in on this episode of the podcast.
Anyway.
So thanks for sponsoring the episode, 30 Seconds to Mars.
Anyway, yeah.
They're going to be in Austin like next week, but we chose to drive all the way to Colorado to see them.
I want to get more tickets.
I'm just going to ignore that last part. Okay, the thing I want to talk about before we get into the questions
My whole point of that, you derailed me really quick. My whole point of that was that like, they did an amazing job of marketing themselves to get people to go to this show. He sold out like all the concerts.
Yeah.
The guy came out of nowhere just being like, hey, I'm going to put on a good show. I'm going to go to these festivals. Then I'm going to climb the Empire State Building and you guys are going to buy tickets. And we did.
It worked. And actually they weren't that expensive. I thought it's been a long time since I've been to a concert like that.
But
and I was expecting the tickets to be like $100, but I think they're more like $60 per ticket.
I think they're like 40, yeah.
Anyway, all right, so we got back from this long trip. We were gone about 3 weeks, and we did not bring our scale with us, so neither one of us were able to weigh ourselves that entire time. And this is a common thing I see with people. They'll go on a trip, maybe not that long, but they'll come back from the trip. They hadn't weighed themselves the whole time, and they get on the scale the first day back, and they're like, wow, like not so bad. I weigh about the same as I did while I was gone. All those little transgressions I had, the extra fun I had on vacation, didn't really matter. Didn't really do anything bad to me. But you got to remember, like, what you weigh on any particular day is still not an indication of the past, really. Even if you are like on point with your nutrition, what you weigh the next day isn't that important. Same goes for if you've been off point with your nutrition. You have to continue to weigh yourself more frequently, because what happens commonly is like you'll quote get back on track after a vacation, and you weighed less the first day back, but your weight starts ticking up because the energy balance equation of like overdoing it, underdoing it is struck over a much longer period of time, but we forget that. And so we feel like we've got back on track. Why is my weight going up 1/4 of a pound every single day? I got back from vacation and I've been good, whatever that means, ever since then. So remember, if you've ever been in this situation, just stay the course, even though like your weight might be trending up when you get back from a trip. It could be because of what you did on the trip, even though you're back to your normal routine now. So I'm going to keep weighing myself. We had a really, quote, healthy trip. We exercised a ton. We ate our regular food. So I don't expect that my weight is going to trend up since we've gotten back, because that's really the thing that is going to make your weight change over time, is what did you really do during that time.
We're going to have to start getting ourselves, we did go for an early morning walk because it's so hot. We wanted to get our dogs some exercise, and it's like way too hot right now to walk them in the daytime. So we got up early and did that. But like, we're going to have to be on point, because we were averaging, just because of the activities and the places we were staying, we were averaging like 18,000 steps a day. So
it was nuts.
If we want to keep that level of activity, we're going to have to ramp it up a little bit.
We got to adjust to that 1 hour time difference too.
I do think that is a common misconception, though, that like you think like you get on the scale and you're like, that reflects what I did yesterday.
Right.
I remember this from a long time ago when we used to work out with our friend Chris, and was the first person to teach us this, that like what you weigh today is a reflection of basically what you did last week, not yesterday.
Or even longer ago. It could be 2 weeks, and you might not see the consequences of last week until a week or two from now. So be careful, folks, if you're coming back from vacation in the next couple weeks. You kind of go a little
crazy one day, you get on the scale and you're like, whew. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. You're like, I escaped that one.
Right. Maybe not. Stay tuned. All right. You ready to get into these questions?
Sure. Here we go.
I'll read the first one.
Here's a podcast question topic. That's funny. I've been wondering about. Okay.
Start over.
Let's start over.
Let's
start the questions. Tempo reps and slow reps versus fast reps. What is best? Slow, fast, pause, or no pause? Thanks.
And then he sent us along a video of Mike Israetel from Renaissance Periodization and some other scientists kind of debating this topic. If you don't know what tempo reps are, it just means like you control the eccentric part of the movement at a certain pace, and then you control the concentric or the going up part of the movement at a certain pace. Usually it's like 2 seconds, up, down, 2 seconds.
Yeah, we've done these in like hip thrusts and things like that for you guys. Like you might see it as like a 3030 written after the movement. So that means, how long do you go up in the movement? How long do you pause? How long do you go down? And how long do you pause? So there's 4 pieces.
So the debate was like, are there any benefits in hypertrophy or in strength gains in controlling the tempo and taking a pause at the bottom of each rep? And I'm just going to take instead of like talking about the research and debating all this stuff, I want to just talk to the person that listens to our podcast, because they're like us. They just want to be in shape. They want to get in and out of the gym. They they want to know what to do, and they just want to get a good workout, but also see the progress in the results. And overall, the bottom line is it doesn't matter. The thing that we use tempo for sometimes is if we're trying to reinforce like somebody's technique or get into the right position at the bottom of a rep, like they're struggling to hit depth on a squat, or their knees are caving forward or in on a squat, we might control the tempo going down so they're not just crashing to the bottom, and we actually have a better eye on what's going on. It also gives them more like feedback as they're doing it, because it's happening more slowly.
Or as an accessory movement, sometimes we will add a little tempo, like tempo goblet squats, for example, or a tempo thrust.
So the other thing I was going to say is like we might control tempo to increase the difficulty of something or change the stimulus of the exercise, not necessarily for like maximal hypertrophy or strength gain, but to change the stimulus or make it harder if they only have like a limited amount of weight. Like somebody's dumbbells max out at 35 pounds and they've hit that for the upper rep range of what we want them to do. Well, we might slow it down to create more time under tension, eventually cause more muscle damage, cause more growth, more strength adaptation. So that's the way that we use it most of the time. Doing pauses is kind of the same thing. You can hit a position, feel what that feels like, come out of the bottom, and that's really the main benefit of it. I will say though that like in my own lifting and with clients, if you really focus on having an explosive concentric out of the bottom of a squat, the deadlift, the bench press, you touch your chest and you really try to use explosive power, you'd be surprised how much better of an effort you can put in and how many more reps you can do when you really are focusing on that. And there is research that shows us carryover in strength gains when you really do focus on the concentric part of the movement. You might see serious powerlifters have this device attached to their barbell that they weight down on the floor, and it's actually measuring the concentric part of the movement for that reason. They're trying to maximize strength potential through explosiveness otherwise known as power. But for our everyday athlete, we don't really put a lot of emphasis on it unless we're using it for a specific purpose.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what we want is like you were talking about, the intensity of the lift. And I think when we were listening to this article that he sent, or to the podcast, whatever it was that he sent, and I liked one of the things that they brought up. They were saying that like if you are adding this, like if you're slowing down your reps and adding tempo, and it's causing you to do actually less reps, then you're probably sidetracking yourself from your progress.
Yeah, it could like diminish your training volume because you went so slow you could only do 3 reps.
Yeah, like it was supposed to be a set of 8 to 12 and you added tempo and you could only get to like 5 or 6 just because you added so much tempo that you were fatiguing yourself before you would actually get tired doing 8 to 12 reps.
And just the general population can make so much progress just by tracking their workouts, using progressive overload with good technique, that adding the complexity of things can just kind of be like a novel distraction. Honestly, you're going to get plenty strong using linear and double progression, following a good training program before you have to get into this fancy stuff.
Yep. And I know who sent this in. He's not lacking on any weights or equipment that he needs, so we can keep going.
That's right. Buckle up, Bernie.
All right, next question. What are the best ways to work on flexibility?
Yeah, this is a common one.
Yeah.
Why don't we talk about the resource that we wrote to help people work on their...
Actually, Haley put this together for us and did a fantastic job. There's a full month of Get Flexi Challenge that we can put on, if you're a client of ours, your calendar that you can go through. It takes you 3 days a week, and it progresses you through the different exercises, adding time and adding different difficulties.
And if you're not a client, you can download it off our website too, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes.
With something like this, like, I probably am the worst about needing to work on flexibility. I think that it's one of the best ways to do it is to set aside time outside of your workout. Because I wouldn't want to take away like 15 minutes of my workout day to work on my flexibility. It could be something that I could possibly do while I'm like chilling, watching TV, like, get on the rug and work on these movements.
Yeah. The last thing we want to do is sacrifice productive training time just to work on flexibility.
So that's one reason that we don't put a ton. I put some stretches at the beginning, and sometimes I will add a little bit of like bonus at the end. But that's really the reason that I don't put a ton of it in the programs, is because I want you guys to focus on the things that are going to make a huge difference. But honestly, like if you're struggling with something, a lot of the ways to work on flexibility is to run your body through the ranges of motion versus just trying to like stretch your bodies for the ranges of motion. One of the most common things I can think of is like people have a hard time with the front rack position. Like if we're doing a front squat or holding dumbbells here and they, can't get their elbows to point straight ahead horizontally, they're wanting to point down. And instead of like really working different stretches there, one of the best ways to get your body used to that position is to actually hold weight statically in that position.
I think that brings up the greater point here. Like besides having a program to follow to work on it and carving out the actual time to do it, if you can do mobility work under load, you're going to get quicker adaptation to it than just doing it unweighted. People who get serious about tackling a really strong flexibility goal, like I want to be able to do the splits, eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to have to do that weighted, because that's how you push yourself through the full range of motion, not just by your own body weight. Like if you want to really gain hamstring mobility, you would be better off doing RDLs on the regular than just doing seated toe touches, because there's a weight involved. I think people forget that weightlifting is actually mobility training, because like you said, you're putting your body through a full range of motion, working all the different connective tissues and the muscles at the same time. So you get functional flexibility, not just passive flexibility for the sake of having it.
If you guys are fans of the CrossFit Games are starting basically the day you're going to listen to this podcast.
Did you say fans of the CrossFit?
Fans of CrossFit. The CrossFit Games are starting on
Heck yeah.
August 8th. So be sure to watch that. It's on YouTube and YouTube, the CrossFit Games YouTube. But anyway, the guy in charge of writing the CrossFit Games, Dave Castro, he interviewed like all 60 athletes. And I really appreciated in one of the last ones or something like that, he was talking to somebody and he said like, he was asking all of them like, how long do you work out per day and what do you do for flexibility or to warm up? And I thought it was interesting that he said like, some people say they work out for like 6 hours a day, but like some people will spend an hour just like working on flexibility and warming up. And then some people work out for like, literally these CrossFit Games athletes will work out for like 2 hours a day. And their warm up is probably like,
You say 2 hours a day?
Yeah, like some of them
work out like 8 hours a day.
No. Some of them, that's the like long range, and some of them don't. Like he's like,
like
what's your warm up? And it's just like my warm up is like a 400-meter jog and some squat. It's so it definitely varies for people. My point was I really appreciated him even bringing that to light. That some people will spend an hour or 30 minutes like doing flexibility warm-up type stuff, and some people are like, give me some jumping jacks and some air squats and push-ups and I'm ready to go. And I think I'm definitely more on that spectrum of like, I just need to like move for 5 minutes and then I'm ready to go, versus like I don't want to spend 30 minutes rolling around before I even get to work. I'm like, let's go.
I blame the foam rollers for this. Like they made it so comfortable just to roll around on those things and hurt yourself. It's like, I guess I need to work on my mobility more because here's a foam roller.
All right, next question. What are the pros and cons of lifting on little sleep? Is it worth it if you're exhausted? Are your gains reduced due to fatigue? This is a good question.
I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to your mindset too.
Yeah.
Besides the physiological, like, are your gains going to be reduced? There's been plenty of times where I've gotten a crappy night sleep, like just, woke up thinking about something and couldn't go back to sleep. And I've had a great workout the next day. I think the key is to go into the workout with an open mind, thinking like, I'm just going to take what's there today. If it starts feeling good, I'm going to go for it. If things are feeling bad, then I'm going to do what I can that day. And if you think about your whole training career as, like a bunch of dominoes in a row, if you have one unproductive workout, well, the dominoes still kept falling, even though one of them wasn't the most stellar
But the domino was in place. That means you went out there and you got your workout in. If you just skipped the workout because you were tired, that domino's removed and the whole thing wouldn't. Like if you think about dominoes in a row, they can't fall like that. I think the same question could be asked about like the pros and cons of working out if you're sick, or and we have that question a lot.
Unless you work out in a commercial gym. Don't do that.
But we get that question a lot from clients too, and I think the same thing is true. Like if you're able to, and you're just like suffering through a little of a congestion, cold kind of thing, like you said, keep an open mind, step out into your gym space, be flexible with both the amount of the workout that you're going to allow yourself to do. Don't feel like I'm going to have to do everything. And allow yourself to be flexible on the weights. If for some reason you're sick or you're tired or you're way too sore or something is going on, truly something's going on, don't just like allow yourself excuses, but allow yourself the flexibility to be like, okay, it's going to be safer for me to reduce some weight, to reduce some volume, but still go through the motions today.
I totally
like you
agree.
said, at the end of the day, you're better off that you stepped into that space and did what you could than skipped it altogether.
Because so much of staying consistent with training is just keeping the routine and the habit alive. So the question is like, is it worth it if you're exhausted? Yes, it's still worth it, because not only does the training volume that you got in still count, but it keeps your momentum rolling, keeps your mindset right, and makes you still want to get back to it the next night that you have a normal sleep. The
mindset, the mindset is such a huge piece of this.
Yes.
Like, for example, we were just we drove like longer than we expected our day one coming out of Colorado. Well, it was basically from New Mexico. We were just going to go, I don't know where we were going to go, but we ended up driving for like almost 8 hours that day, and I only, getting almost no activity. And the next day we get to a park and it was blazing hot. It was out in West Texas, like blazing hot. And I was like, I have to do something. I can't go like, 2 days driving, no activity, nowhere to go. I did almost an hour workout in our camper with burpees, with the stair stepper. And honestly, like, I was actually sore. I was sore from the burpees a little bit, but it was such a like win for my mindset. I know I wasn't like making gains out there in the floor space of my camper, but it was such a win to be able to do that and feel fantastic after it.
Totally.
And
comes down to the habit.
Keeps me rolling, like, now that we're back, like, I'm like ready to roll, rather than like having like, 3 driving days in a row where we didn't move and feeling sluggish. Like, I feel great and I'm ready to roll after you
just made me think of something else that's probably important to bring up on this one too, is that there's research that shows when you're sleep deprived, you're going to crave more calorie dense foods, junk foods. So if you are feeling tired because of a crappy night's sleep, it's probably even more important that you do some kind of training, because that's more likely to help regulate your appetite and make you more willing mentally to make positive food choices, instead of being like, I already missed my workout, I'm craving Pirate's booty and bourbon, I'm just going to go for it.
And what did we find? Even for ourselves and the dogs, we were super active for 2 full weeks in a row in Colorado, and then we get in the car and we're just like, why are we so tired?
Right.
And it's because we weren't moving. Like movement really just like, even if you're tired, movement really just helps to
Perks
stimulate.
you up.
Yeah.
So you're tired, either take a nap or go for a run.
Go for a run.
Or lift weights.
All right. Next question. How long after a workout does muscle growth continue? For example, if I lift hard and I have enough protein available, does my body build muscle for 10 hours after that workout? 24 hours, 48 hours? Is it continuous, or does it come in discernible chunks?
It's a good one, right?
That is a good question.
All right. So let's think about this whole like muscle growth thing as this. You can think of it as a cycle or as a wave. I like to think of it as a wave. We've got 2 states that our bodies exist in. We have muscle protein synthesis, an anabolic state, and we have muscle protein breakdown, a catabolic state. So the goal in improving your body composition and building muscle is to regulate those waves so that as they net out over time, you're spending more time in the anabolic state, the muscle protein synthesis state. That's going to keep your muscle building over time. And the way that we kick off this process is by lifting weights, doing a workout. That's what initially stimulates muscle protein synthesis. And after you have a training bout, especially an intense one, you're triggering that muscle protein synthesis and a cascade of hormonal responses that set off the repair of the damage that you just did in the workout. That's the goal of a workout, is to do the damage so your body automatically kicks in, is like, all right, we got to repair this. That's what's going to cause the adaptation to make your muscle grow. So that happens almost immediately after a workout, but by 3 to 4 hours after a workout, we're really cooking along. That's really when muscle protein repair is happening. And it peaks in most people at about the 24-hour mark after the workout. Now, if we want to take advantage of this repair process, we got to think about the things that cause the repair. It's the nutrition that we put in, and it's the rest through sleep that we have. And we all know that there's all these great hormonal responses during sleep that help us build muscle also. So if it's happening in this kind of cycle, what you want to avoid is constantly training the same muscle group over and over and over again without letting it go through that repair process. So if you are like, man, I really want my biceps to grow, I'm going to do 5 sets of 21s today. Like, it's going to be like a maximal effort. And since I want my biceps to grow, I'm going to do it again tomorrow. And then I'm going to do it again the next day. Well, we're spending too much time in the breakdown phase and not enough time in the restorative phase. So that's why we want to like think about this in cycles and giving our body the recovery that we need and spreading out the hard sets of our training volume for the different muscle groups in a smart way across the week. So we get to take advantage of making this cycle happen more often. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what are the things that we can do to support the recovery side of it? Well, it's to eat adequate protein. That's the main thing that needs to happen. It used to be thought like, all right, if I'm going to maximize this muscle growth period, I need to like get this protein in like the minute I set the barbell down. They called it like the anabolic window. And this came to be in the 90s because of some research that came out. But it's been debunked since then. And it's not this window where you have to like slam a protein
You've got
shake.
the milk right there by the squat rack.
Not at all. You know, these levels stay elevated for a long time. Now, but the key is to have the nutrients on board, like ready to be used as the building blocks for the muscle when the repair needs to happen. So that's why we're always talking about the most important thing is to have the adequate amount of protein throughout the course of the day. Eating enough protein throughout the whole day as the total is the most important thing. And if we want to optimize that, we want to spread it out over 3 to 4 times per day instead of just like eating our 100 grams of protein or 150 grams of protein at one meal. So that's really all you have to worry about in optimizing your protein intake. So after you've done that resistance training workout, meaning you've lifted weights, you've caused muscle damage, muscle protein synthesis rates start spiking immediately. And by 3 to 4 hours after you've done the workout, you're really ramping along. Now, by about 24 hours, you're at the peak of muscle protein synthesis. And then most people, by the time you get to 48 hours, you're all the way back down to baseline levels. So if you want to think about it like specifically to his question, does my body build muscle for 10 hours, 24 hours, or 48 hours? You're really mostly in the building stage in that first 24 hours, and then the wave starts coming down in the next 24 hours after that. Now, one of the reasons that people fail to see results with their workouts is they're really just doing exercise that gets their heart rate up. They feel a burn in their muscles. They're biking for a long period of time. They're doing a bunch of air squats or plyometrics and things like that. So they're feeling fatigue in their muscles, but they're never actually causing the muscle damage through hard effort weightlifting that triggers this process. And then through eating enough protein and calories causes the muscle to grow. So you're doing all this work that's really just more catabolic work, not the anabolic work. You're not kicking into muscle protein synthesis, and you're never seeing the physical results. So if I could say one thing that causes most people who are working out a lot to not get results, it's that they're not actually going through this process because they're not causing muscle damage.
They're not lifting the weights heavy enough.
Right.
They're not eating enough protein, and they're not allowing the recovery.
And all of this only happens, this building, when you're eating enough calories too.
Yeah.
If you're in this constant dieting, calorie deficit mindset, or actually in a calorie deficit, not just the mindset of it, like you're literally not putting in the energy that your body needs to build this tissue and build your body composition, which is why people end up being skinny fat. Like you are never going to starve and diet your way to an athletic physique. We need to support your activity, support your hard training with enough calories and enough protein, and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. It's funny. This reminds me of the post you just recently put it up about like a picture. It was like a picture of you like on a fake phone.
Yeah.
And you talked about like how when you started your strength training era,
Yeah.
as we'll say, you really thought that all you should do is like lift weights, sit down between sets,
Eat.
and eat. And like back in the day of the starting strength, it was like eat, drink whole milk, like eat whatever. There was no value on like eating nutrition, like, you know,
or even like the quantity really
food.
needed.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
just
I was
like, probably in a 25%
eat.
calorie surplus, where now we know like a 5 to 10% calorie surplus is plenty to build muscle without piling on fat that you're later going to have to worry about losing.
Yeah. So if you didn't see that post, it was a post of Jonathan, like, how much heavier do you think you were then?
25 pounds.
Okay.
I gained about 25 pounds.
In 2014, so it was 10 years ago. So we used to have a friend that lived in Denver, and we would go visit him, and his birthday and my birthday were both in August. We'd always go visit him in August, and when we would go there, we were really affected by the altitude. We would just go on a walk around. He lived by a park that was just fantastic to walk around, like a flat park.
Yeah.
And we would be like, hang on. And then we'd go for a hike, and we were just done for, and we went to take a tour back then in 2014, me and Jonathan, of the Coors beer factory, and that's where he got that photo. So we went back this year to go take a tour of the Coors factory again, and it was awesome, but we couldn't find the actual place, but we've, a similar looking thing. We took that photo again, but we did find that this time when we were at altitude, we were running, I was doing Metcons in the gym. I did not feel affected by the altitude this time in the least. And I think it has a lot to do with like the way we treat our bodies. Like we understand like how to fuel our bodies properly. And we have a 10 more years of working out behind us.
Yep.
So it was actually really cool not that we haven't been there in 10 years, but I was just very like aware of it this time, that I was not affected by the altitude in the least.
And the fact that we did that stair climb.
Yeah, that's true. That
dying.
thing too. That I think affects you a little bit by the altitude.
I mean, I think that this conversation, I mean, just around this last part, not like how long do you build muscle, but is the beauty of our training approach. Like we want to build capacity. We want to have energy. We want to be able to go out and do certain things.
Yeah.
We want to be strong. We want to be capable. We want to be able to like do explosive things out in the world if the need arrives to do them, and like be strong enough to do whatever life throws at us.
Yeah.
We want to have muscle size and definition, so we actually look like we work out. We want to be functional. We want to be able to use our strength and fitness in everyday life and things that make our life better. And that is how we've come across this training method that we use ourselves and coach our clients.
Yeah, not only the training method, but the way the nutrition, the way you fuel your body. And
yes.
That's, like you said, like, yes, lifting hard, doing the right things is a big piece of this, but the other big piece of it is the things on the backside, which
yes.
are the nutrition and the recovery.
Amen. All right. Anything else?
I think we did.
It's getting hot in here. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to get a question in the queue, just send us a message on Instagram. And if you would like to know the options for working with us, send us a message on Instagram also, and we'll shoot you over all the details. All right. Have a great day.